Happy motherfucking 4th of July, my fellow Americans. I know I'm about to celebrate this wonderful holiday the way it was intended. Me and my fellow patriots are going to go get drunk and then we're going to shoot off fireworks. Now, many of you people may be thinking that's not a good idea. But don't worry, by the time we shoot off those fireworks, we'll be way too drunk to have any sense of judgment. But before I get to that, I do need to talk about this week's episode of Yugioh Vrains, because, like the title says, this might very well be the worst duel in franchise history. Now, some of you might be saying to yourself, that's a little on the dramatic side. I don't think so. Honestly, after a certain point watching this, I kind of stopped being annoyed and was just kind of fascinated. It's like Batman v Superman. It's so fucking terrible and gets so much obvious shit wrong that after a certain point, around the time of that Flash cameo, I just stopped being annoyed and just kind of sat there fascinated at the level of suckiness. And that's what kind of happened here. First up, some context. The problem that most of the duels in Vrains has in particular is because every duel is plot-oriented and because Yusaku can never lose or his ass is grass, it kind of becomes hard to get invested in duels in this after a while. No, don't get me wrong, there's been some fantastic duels. Yusaku versus Revolver, the first time was really good, and the second time. Yusaku versus Akira was great. We'll probably bring that up a little bit later, too. But a lot of them kind of fall a little bit flat because he has to win all the time, and as I've brought up before, because so much of the show is put upon just making him seem cool, a lot of it rings hollow. I never really feel like he's in a dire strait because they actually built into the show a way for him to just pull out a bullshit new card to save his ass. That doesn't really get me invested. It just means that, what's the point? His out is there. Now, yes, every Yu-Gi-Oh! Protagonist has plot armor, and they'll all bring out that card at the end. But the thing is, all of fictional media is an illusion. It all goes a certain way. It's all created by people. Your investment comes from how well that illusion is put up in front of you. And here it's, I never for 5 seconds really feel that invested in what's going on, because a lot of the duels, it's just we need it to end a certain way so the plot can go a certain way. I never believed that Spectre was truly better than Aoi. I, to this day, still only believe Aoi lost because they needed Spectre to fight Yusaku because they still want you to think Yusaku is the greatest thing since sliced bread. That's where that comes from. And in this duel, it reached its ultimate pinnacle in a lot of ways, because there's nothing to invest in. We know Bowman's deck is situational, and we know it's not very good. And the thing is, nothing about what's been going on outside of the duel seems to have actually influenced anything within it. It's Bowman is more powerful now because he's wearing black emo armor. Well, that didn't really change the way he dueled. He still summoned the same monsters, and yeah, at the part 1, Ignis was like, oh, he's playing a little bit better. And yes, they do a fairly okay job of making it feel like his plays are made more competently, but that quickly goes away because, well, it's still just the same plays from last time. He's just doing everything on repeat, to the point where they even make a plot point about this. Yusaku literally just expects the same shit, and the same shit plays out. And they do this annoying thing where they just keep saying, oh, I anticipated your moves, I anticipated your moves, I anticipated your moves, but nothing about how they duel feels influenced by that. Yeah, Yusaku activated a counter trap to stop Bowman's trap, while the other trap still went off, so the strategy still plays out the same way. You almost could have cut Yusaku's counterplay out entirely. It doesn't really show a lot of intelligence if I don't feel the impact or the weight of the situation. Now, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has it rough. It legitimately does. Because unlike most shonens that can work the emotion and the stakes into the fight with, say, more intense fight choreography, or with bright shiny new shonen-y type moves, or anything like that, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has to have everything revolve around a card game. it has to be turn-based, and they still need to be able to think calmly, and they still need to be able to stand without getting really injured so they can still make plays. What better Yu-Gi-Oh shows, like what almost feels like all of them at this point, have done is they've tried to incorporate every element they can into getting you invested. Yu-Gi-Oh has to think outside of the box because they basically started off 20 miles away from the box. Like, for instance, a great example of this is the Yusei versus Akiza duels in 5Ds. It's obvious that Yusei has to win, but the thing is they combine all the elements like animation, the voice acting, the character motivations. Everything is combined to make you feel invested. Using that second duel, for instance, the two had, it's only set in a hospital room, but it is one of the best duels the franchise has ever provided because they use everything to its advantage. You watch as the situation becomes more chaotic as Akiza's powers come out. You watch as, like, her hair's all messy. That means something, I know, it's late. But you see all those things come out. You see the music get more intense. You see Yusei get physically injured. You see Akiza go crazier and crazier. It's not just a card game anymore. You're watching what's going on inside this girl's mind. You watch as Akiza's own sense of self and psyche are basically torn apart and brought back together. This is also influenced by the monsters they use. Black Rose Dragon is black and red, colors often associated with chaos, and its design is actually very vicious. Stardust Dragon is predominantly white and blue. These are colors that are sensitive of calm, intelligence, that sort of desire to reach out. Even their effects are designed specifically to actually represent the characters' personalities. Yusei's desire to protect, to rebuild, to enhance. Akiza's desire for destruction and a want for her own sense of self-worth. These are plot elements. That isn't here in Vrains. Bowman's deck is forgettable, and seeing it a second time, considering how bland... It was interesting the first time, but seeing it a second time, like, it's really not that good. If you're gonna have it, he's basically a different person, then just give him a different deck. Why not give him... I forget, is he using a Cyberse deck? Yeah, I think he's using a Cyberse deck. Give him a cooler Cyberse deck. Or make it that Yusaku is playing differently, because remember... Yusaku, as of this episode, has had his entire sense of self troubled. Let's talk about this for a minute. Many people online felt this was the thing that could fix everything. This is the thing that'll fix Yusaku. Yeah, it's kind of cheap, the idea of justifying his blandness by making, oh, he's a computer program, but a lot of people got legitimately interested in this, and they just threw it away. We wasted 2 minutes on that flashback, and then Yusaku doesn't even really seem to care, because he's like, oh no, I believe I'm the real one. That's not interesting. That's not entertaining. I want to see my characters grow. I want to see them go through challenges. Why not make it that Yusaku seriously takes it to heart, what if I'm not the real me? What if he has a moment? What if they do something to make you wonder, what if this actually is Bowman? I never believe this is really what's going on. Now, I think this plot point will legitimately come up again. I think there is the very distinct possibility what's in that gold sphere is either the real Yusaku, or the real target demographic, or the real Spectre. I think that's legitimately possible, and could be legitimately interesting. But this was your chance to really go into it. Without it, it just feels like a plot point left hanging. Using my Batman v Superman example from before, this is their version of the Martha scene. In BVS, the real reason the Martha thing is stupid is not because no one cares what the mothers' names are, not because Batman has been a killer the whole movie, and this one random fact shouldn't fix everything. I mean, those are big problems. But above all else, it's that the scene is spoon-fed to you. The way they overemphasize her saying Martha, how long the scene is, the way it's shown from Child Bruce's perspective, they didn't give you time to come to this to yourselves. So when the scene is brought up later at the end, if you're like most people who didn't really give a crap, it doesn't really have any effect because it didn't really resonate with you. The same thing is probably going to happen here because they just brought it all up. It's completely out of the open, and the characters who it needs to affect are not affected. One joke from I is not really enough to make the whole thing relevant. The thing is, Yusaku doesn't seem to care, And not only that, the fact that his next response is, well, I'm just gonna stop it. I'm gonna find who this is. I'm gonna fight you. There's someone messing with memories. I'm gonna find him. That over reliance on a male dominance set, that, again, reiteration, Yusaku doesn't have a personality. He doesn't really have anything interesting about him. Again, and I know I'm actually running out of time here. I just want to bring this up really quickly because I brought it up anyways. When Yusaku fought Akira, I felt that emotion from him. I felt that level of personality from him. He's an angry, bitter, uncaring asshole. And they really should have capitalized on it, but no. Here he is being generic, take action, be hero guy. And it sucks, because I just don't really care. Also, the cards they used in this duel were fucking bullshit. I'm glad the Fusion Dragon thing showed up, but remember, people, this means that Yusaku might end up using a 2500 attack point dragon more than the 25 attack point dragon that is built up to be his ace. Think about that. But what did you think of this episode below? Tell me what you thought. Tell me if you think it's that bad, or maybe you've got defense of it. Maybe you've got an interesting point. That's totally fine and could be really interesting. If you have a rebuttal, go for it. I can't really think of one, but that's that. And as for the TCG question of the week, Nationals is over, and my boy Goki won. As some of you may know, I've brought up in the past, I'm currently a Goki player. I didn't attend Nats because money. But at the same time, it was the Goki Sky Striker variant, and Sky Striker variants took up over half the actual top cut. So do you think, like, maybe when the next ban list rolls around, since there's always a ban list that's influenced by Nats and by Worlds, do you think that they should maybe do a tiny one, like the Tier 0 Spiral one, where they just hit like 5 problematic cards? Or would you like a big one that just like ban Firewall, or maybe hit Suprex? I've heard some people say so that way Firewall doesn't have to go. Hit Trickstars, hit Sky Strikers, maybe even hit Spiral again just for good measure. Do you think that's also the way to go? Because honestly, I'm kind of in the middle. I don't need a big, like, 20 card ban list again. I'd rather just get, like, just clean up the meta a little bit. But what do you think about that? Tell me that below. And as always, click to like, click to subscribe. Happy 4th of July, everybody.